Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and last night there were some changes made to Azerite traits for all three Warlock specs. While a good deal of them were simply an attempt to bring underperforming traits up a bit, they did not really change a whole lot outside of one to two traits. In this video, I will be covering the tier 1 traits that you should currently be shooting for each Warlock spec and where they're most useful. I'll leave a link to the current trait sims in the description below, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. Now, before we jump into the spec-specific traits, I want to talk briefly about both Archive of the Titans and Laser Matrix from Old Year. Laser Matrix was recently nerfed from its original state, but it was probably needed as it was very strong. It brings with it an AoE damage proc as well as a heal for your entire group. The real power, however, comes from wearing either a Laser Matrix or Archive of the Titans Azerite piece inside actual Old Year. Doing so grants you a buff called the Re-Origination Array, which can increase by 1 stack weekly after killing 3 bosses. It can stack as high as 10, so it's effectively a nerf to content over the course of 10 weeks. It's very important to note, however, that this buff is only active inside Old Year and not outside. So if you look at the sims I have linked in the description and see a +5 or a +10 after each sim, that is accounting for the 5 or 10 stacks of array inside actual Old Year. Archive is still a strong choice for Destruction and Demonology outside of Old Year due to them lacking as many options as Affliction. However, Laser Matrix is a decent bit lower than Archive post-nerf. Best way to tell for your own character, however, is to run a raybots.com sim. While Destruction might not be the strongest of 3 specs currently, it did receive a buff to one of its traits last night that could easily make it a much better choice for Mythic Plus, depending on the key and affixes. Accelerate received an increase to its duration from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, which makes maintaining the buff's uptime much easier. Rain of Fire is mostly used on packs with 5 or more targets, unless Havoc is on CD in smaller packs, so maintaining a high uptime in Mythic Plus is now very possible. Unfortunately, however, Crashing Chaos was nerfed last night by 30%, and while many are not too happy about the nerf, let's be honest here, it was sort of needed. Crashing Chaos previously was pretty overtuned and was performing better than both Archive of the Titans and Laser Matrix inside Old Year with 5 stacks of Re-Origination Array. While the nerf does hurt, Crashing Chaos is still a strong choice for single target encounters. It will still be especially strong on encounters where the target takes increased damage like Mother does in Old Year in her last phase. I did want to note quickly, as you can see here, that when you have Crashing Chaos active and you use Havoc, casting Chaos Bolt only consumes 1 charge of Crashing Chaos, yet still buffs both Chaos Bolts, making it especially powerful in 2 target cleave situations initially. Rolling Havoc also received a buff today, increasing its duration to 15 seconds from 10 seconds, and I think in a sense, this buff is flying a bit under the radar. Rolling Havoc is a great choice for Mythic Plus, and outside of it previously, we have not had a great second choice like both Demonology and Affliction do. Destruction has been mostly using traits like Champion of Azeroth, Archive of the Titans, or Secrets of the Deep for main and secondary stat increases in Mythic Plus. With us now having both Accelerant and Rolling Havoc in their new forms, I'm going to start with 1 Rolling Havoc, 1 Accelerant, and most likely 1 stat-based trait like Archive of the Titans for initial Mythic Plus trait testing. As far as Affliction-based Azerite traits go, there are a few that you can use, and they're all pretty close to one another in single-target sims, with one trait being much stronger in multi-target and Mythic Plus settings. Sudden Onset was recently buffed by about 350%, and then nerfed again by 30% a week later due to it being so strong when stacked 3 times after the buff. Even after the nerf, Sudden Onset is the winner for Mythic Plus Azerite configurations in my opinion. There's a bit of give when it comes to using a 340 Sudden Onset piece versus a 370 or 385 piece with another good trait on it, but Sudden Onset is still very strong and in my opinion still the best choice for Mythic Plus at the moment. It also gains a great bit of value on boss fights like Fetid Devourer, where the mutated mass ab will live long enough for Wrath and Agony to reach 15 stacks, making Sudden Onset even more powerful. Inevitable Demise initially saw a great deal of play in Mythic Zeros and Mythic Plus, and was certainly a go-to trait for it in the early weeks of BFA, but with the Sudden Onset buff, it has been pushed to the back burner in a sense. Its damage was buffed roughly 2 weeks ago by 33%, but they greatly reduced the amount of raw healing it did. While the healing nerf hurt a decent bit, I would personally rather have it dealing 33% more damage than healing for a bit more most of the time. With its recent buff, ID has become a viable single target trait and currently sims very close to both Racking Brilliance and Cascading Calamity. Speaking of Racking Brilliance, it remains one of the strongest single target traits we have access to, and also scales well in multi-target scenarios when compared to something like Cascading Calamity. I did want to mention that running multiple pieces with Racking Brilliance does increase the value of haste in secondary stat sims, so be sure to run a raybots.com sim if you're changing a few traits up for a specific encounter or for Mythic Plus. It's also a strong choice for Mythic Plus, as it will have a pretty high uptime due to there being multiple targets present throughout the actual dungeon. And finally we have Cascading Calamity. Cascading Calamity is very close in single target sims once again to both Racking Brilliance and Inevitable Demise, but it's not as strong of a choice in my opinion in Mythic Plus due to the nature of the trait. Barring there being a priority mob that needs to be killed quickly in a certain pack, you're better off spreading your unstable afflictions to multiple targets for the 10% damage increase instead of dumping them all into one, which is what the trait actually requires. I personally have been running triple sudden onset for Mythic Plus recently, and even though the initial starting stack of 4 does not increase with wearing a second or third piece of sudden onset gear, its damage does, which makes sudden onset a very strong choice for Mythic Plus. And of course, saving the best for last, we have Demonology. Forbidden Knowledge, Umbral Blaze, and Explosive Potential were all buffed to a certain extent today, but sadly none of these buffs are big enough to bump them up high enough to compete with the stronger Demonology traits currently. Shadow's Bite is a very strong single target trait, but loses a great deal of value on 2 and 3 target encounters to traits like Supreme Commander and Demonic Meteor. While the damage does indeed stack when running multiple Shadow's Bite pieces, it really is just a strong single target trait. Demonic Meteor's damage was recently buffed a great deal like Sudden Onset was for Affliction, and is currently an extremely strong trait for Mythic Plus and stack cleave with 2 or more targets. It greatly buffs Hand of Gul'dan's impact damage, and when you have 5 or more mobs grouped together in a dungeon, it's really noticeable. The additional 5% chance to regenerate shards you spend is nice as well, and can lead to some pretty strong implosions if you get the right procs on larger packs. It's a great trait and also one that is very fun to play with both in Mythic Plus and stack cleave boss encounters. Finally we have Supreme Commander, which is a strong trait between both Shadow's Bite and Demonic Meteor in a sense. It's a great choice for single target encounters and also brings a little bit of play to Mythic Plus trash upon expiration, granting you an intellect buff for a whopping 15 seconds in addition to a stack of Demonic Core. Demonic Tyrant is on a 1.5 minute CD, but really brings with it a great deal of damage to Mythic Plus when used on larger trash packs, and is also strong on boss encounters. I have recently been running a set of 2 Demonic Meteor and 1 Supreme Commander to great success and have been having a blast doing so. Now I did want to mention briefly as well, there are certain traits like Champion of Azeroth, Blightborn Infusion, and Dagger in the Back that are decent choices depending on the other traits you have available on a specific Azerite piece. Dagger in the Back sims high but requires specific positioning on boss encounters where in Mythic Plus that is just realistically not going to happen. The fact that it's a single target only trait also causes it to lose a great deal of value in Mythic Plus and certain raid encounters, which is why I did not mention it here. The best way to tell which traits are best for you is to run a raidbots.com sim, as well as take into consideration what content you're going to be running the most. Thanks for watching guys. I hope this gave you all a better understanding of what traits you should be looking for in different scenarios for each spec. The best way to actually find out what traits are best for your individual character once again is to simply run a raidbots.com top gear sim, as everyone's character is different. If you're interested in acquiring any of the weak wares you've seen here, I'll have a link to both my Twitch as well as my Discord in the description below where you can acquire them. If you'd like to see more WoW content and help support the channel, remember to hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons as your support really helps. Thanks so much guys, and I'll see you in Azeroth. Peace.